Welcome, collectors of all ages. This is Mike with Jayhawker Vintage Cards, and today's video I'm going to talk a little bit about my collecting future, some of the goals I have going forward for the next year. But I want to do something that I forgot to do last time. So I did my first month as a YouTube content creator recap video, and it was showed us some cards and things. But I talked briefly about meeting up with some guys from the YouTube community at a card channel in Missouri. Doug, the video guy 316, Chris from Missouri, Sam O'Brien, and of course Billy Ballgame, and then some of their friends. Oh, can't forget Joe Redneck Collector. But I had a blast down there. I'm not going to talk about that so much because I did in the last video, but I forgot to show some gifts that Doug, video guy 316, brought. So we all, after the show in Columbia, started by going to Billy Ballgame's house, and we hung out there for a while, and Doug basically had some envelopes in his hands, and he had us each choose an envelope. Just a super nice gesture of friendship. Keep in mind, I had not met any of these guys except for Chris. Now, Chris wasn't at Billy's house. He went out with another buddy after the show, and then the rest of us were actually at Billy Ballgame's house, and then we ended up at Chris's house after that. But they've all had videos about the show in Columbia, and you can just see how, you know, it was special it was, not just for me, but I think for all of them, for everybody to get together and just kind of hang out and have a good time. But anyway, so Doug had these little envelopes, and inside the envelopes he had this little gifts. One of these, and I have to show it because it's kind of his little emblem. There's a sticker. I'm trying to find the best place to do it. So again, this is from Doug, video guy 316. That was in the envelope, and then he also was passing out, if we wanted them, coasters, and they do have his name on it. How many times when we were younger at a bar did we write a girl's name on the back of our coaster? I know I did. But anyway, I'm going to use this coaster because every time I look at this, it's going to remind me of the day that I got to hang out with these guys, because I just had a blast. Also in the envelope was a pack of 88 Donruss. Now, if you're an old fart like me, you remember that when this came out, I think the very hottest card was the Greg Jeffries rookie. So I'm going to open this up with y'all, and let's just see what we get. That'd be funny if we got something like that. Normally when you open these, you got a whole lot of nothing, but I'm going to actually, I probably haven't looked at any of these cards for, well, most of them since '88, but I bet I'll remember every stinking one of them. So of course there's the piece of the Stan Musial puzzle. All right, I have to look through my glasses this way. Pete Stanishek. Ooh, Ball Hawk. Devon White. Oh, as a Royals fan, I remember this guy who ended up not amounting to much. Gary Thurman. Dennis Martinez. Great comeback player after a pretty good career with the Orioles. Jose Rijo. Another guy who had a couple of brief shining moments. Another Royal. Jerry Don Gleaton. You know, it's fascinating because I do remember all of these. Mike Devereaux. Jay Buhner. He had a couple good seasons as well. Spike Owen. Always thought that was a cool baseball name. Oh, I had somebody else behind him. Jim Morrison. Great singer with the Doors, and not a bad baseball player. Steve Kiefer, or Kiefer. I don't remember. I don't think anybody else does either. And as happened a lot back in those days, you start getting into reruns. And another rerun. And another rerun. And another rerun. So that was cool. That brings back memories. And I do remember these cards. It's amazing how your brain gets wired in like a freaking VCR or DVR. The other card that was in here, and this was, of course, random, so he doesn't know who was going to get what because we had just picked them. But look at that. beautiful 55 Bowman Richie Ashburn. Richie Ashburn was an incredible center fielder. Had no power, but he had good speed and could just run down balls like you wouldn't believe. Not that I saw him play, but I like to read baseball history. But he also had a lot of really ugly cards. This is not one of them. This is a beautiful card. One of his most beautiful cards, I think. And I'm going to cherish that in my collection. So Doug, tip of the cap, thank you. That was awesome. I've seen a couple of videos asking for video responses, and I haven't done one for one in particular, and I might do it. I got a lot of other stuff going on, so I don't know when I'm going to really get around and think about doing it. But it asked, what is your future goals for this upcoming year? Now, my primary goal is to get to Strongsville. I would love to go to Strongsville and hang out with everybody. I've never been there before. I'm brand new to the community, but I'm getting to know some guys. And you watch the videos, and it's like you see these guys, and when you meet them in person, you never know what to expect. And when I met those guys down in Columbia, it's like I met a bunch of old friends. I mean, it was just instant connection, and it was just a beautiful thing. And for those of you who have not yet joined the community, you really ought to do it. I was one of those guys who was afraid to take the plunge for a couple of years. And then I finally did. And my only regret is that I didn't do it a couple of years ago. Better late than never, right? But I was thinking, if my goal is to get to Strongsville, and logistically, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I'm probably going to drive myself. Some other guys mentioned maybe getting a bus. Now, it's a long drive for me. It's about 12 hours, but I've never been in that direction. So I might just take the week off and just drive my way up there. There's some personal reasons why I might just drive myself, health-wise. But I do want to go there, and I want to start saving up a budget, so I'm not just sitting there watching everybody else get cards and not be able to get anything, because I know there's some great deals to be had at Strongsville. So I would like to have just a little bit of money. And for me, I might go for a couple big cards, and that's going to be, cards in the $500 to $1,500 range. Maybe a little bit more if I can save up for it. In the meantime, I'm going to really try to save money, not go after many big purchases between now and then. And I've never been a set collector. I don't do player runs. I'm very eclectic. I see cards on videos, and I say, hey, I want that card in my collection. But I don't really try to build sets. I don't really, try to say I'm going to get all the cards of this guy. I did that as kids when I collected Nolan Ryan, George Brett, Del Murphy, those kind of guys. But I haven't really done this ever since, and never, even as a kid, was a set collector. It was just tedious to me. But I was thinking, what can I do? What can I come up with that will keep my interest, that will be affordable for somebody with a budget like me, and something that is attainable. Maybe not completely by the time of Strongsville next year, but it's something I can kind of work on to keep my interest. Another big thing is organizing my cards, because now that I've gotten back to it, I've got tons of stuff in storage locked away. And so I'm going to get some stuff out to organize it, and then probably put some of it back in there. But, watching the cards that people show really made me think, okay, maybe that's something I want to do. So I looked at my collection that I have and things that have interested me, and I come up with some ideas, very simple sets. When I was a kid, I used to love, I'm talking about like toddler, I used to love the books that had like the picture on the front that was 3D, and you could make the noises and by scratching it. But I just love the 3D picture. I used to remember those viewfinders or viewmasters. I love that because they were 3D as well. And then lo and behold, when I went to 7-Eleven one day, and they had the Slurpee coins. Now, 7-Eleven in my town was right on the way to the baseball fields that I practiced on. So every day after practice, I'd ride my bike to 7-Eleven, drink a delicious Slurpee with, when you practice baseball in Kansas in the summertime, when it's 95 and humid, Slurpee tastes damn good. But every time I went, I'd get a Slurpee coin. And this one had like Tom Seaver, Nolan Ryan, and I think Steve Carlton. You might be seeing them in there. But I love these, and I have a ton of those. And then a few years later, Sport Flicks came out. Dave Regretti, Nolan Ryan, and I'm not even sure who the hell that is. Jack Morris. Had to look. I've not looked at this card. It's been in a box for eons. But I like the Sport Flicks. Not many of my kids or my friends did, but I liked them. So I've always liked the 3D cards. And I had this set of 1981 Kellogg's. And, you know, when I was collecting guys like Nolan Ryan, George Brett and stuff, I would get their Kellogg cards. But since I've been back on YouTube for the last, 5 years, and I see some of these other older Kellogg sets, I just thought they looked beautiful. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to go after the 1970 Kellogg set. And I think I'm going to go after both football and baseball. But to keep it a limited budget type of thing, I'm just going to go after the Hall of Famers. Now, over the last couple of years, I've actually bought some of these. Now, I have some that are graded that I bought, but I think I'm going to do this with just collecting them raw. And I'm going to look for ones that are really good shape. So ones that are pretty well centered, no cracks. And I might send them off eventually for grading. I don't know. That's something I could keep raw and be happy with it. But I actually had more, and I might have more than this, but I actually just rummaged through some that I have. So I'm going to show those real quick. So this is Don Maynard. And I don't know how well you'll see them, but these are all just beautiful shape. Sharp corners, good centering for the most part. No issues. Chiefs, great. Bobby Bell. He's a stinking Raider, but he's a hell of a player. Fred Biletnikoff. Lance Allworth. Another great receiver like Don Maynard that nobody talks about. Lance Allworth was a stud. Lenny Cool, the greatest Kansas City Chiefs quarterback until a guy named Patrick Mahomes came along. And I have two of these, so I can definitely sacrifice one of those. And then one of my all-time favorite players that I wish I could see play, never did, was Kansas Jayhawk great, Gale Sayers. So those are the football cards I have. Like I said, I might have a few others here and there. Then here's some of the baseball cards that I have from that set. Harmon Killebrew, Bob Gibson, and this one I know that I have graded in the slab. Al Kaline, and as a kid, his name always tickled me because it's alkaline, like a battery. I think of weird stuff like that. A really young Reggie Jackson. And Ernie Banks. So that's a very meager start, but it is a start. And like I said, I just look at these Kellogg's and they're really beautiful cards. They're my favorite Kellogg set based off of appearance. So this is the ones I'm going to go after. The other thing, I said I'm not a set builder, so I'm going to kind of be a hypocrite here. I'm going to go after a set, very small set, and it's a 3D set, and it is the 72 Kellogg's all-time greats. I only have one of those cards. I have this one, Babe Ruth, and SGC 9. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to collect this whole set, and I'm going to try to do it in SGC 9. This might take a while because I've kind of gone online a little bit and I'm not seeing any SGC 9. So this one, and I'm probably going to get them graded already tonight. I don't want to take a chance in buying one and getting an 8. A raw card instead of then getting an 8. So I'm probably going to go after these already graded in the SGC 9. I don't want to do the old labels. I want to do the current ones here. But that's kind of a way for me to do something to keep my interest that I can, not spend too much money on. But it'll be a goal of mine. And slowly but surely, I will start getting these. If I ever get the whole set, I'm sure I'm going to show it. But in the meantime, I'm really looking forward to seeing some of you in Strongsville. That's my ultimate goal. That's my ultimate collecting goal, or hobby goal, I should say. So until then, keep collecting. Boy, I love the content, and I'm telling you, if you guys have been watching YouTube videos and you haven't thought about starting a channel, or if you have been thinking about it but just haven't done it yet, just do it. It's so much fun. And if any of you are watching this that are in the Kansas City area, the other guys had mentioned in their videos, and I mentioned mine, some of us had to travel, at least a couple hours to get to Columbia and hang out with the guys. And I would do that in a second. But if there's other people in my area, I'm just to the west of Kansas City, and if you're a YouTuber, or if you're thinking about starting a channel, or if you're somebody who watches the content, drop a comment, or shoot me an email, and let's meet up at some shows and hang out and have a great time, because there's not a way to spend a day that's better than sitting around with some buddies and talking vintage cards and sports in general. So until then, have a great time collecting.